If you're gearing up for any competitive exam, you know that India's social sector is a topic you just can't skip. So today, we're going to break down exactly how investing in people, in health and education, is really the engine driving that huge goal of a developed India by 2047. We're going to get right into the facts, the figures, and the key concepts you absolutely need to know. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with a big picture vision, and then we'll follow the money to see exactly where it's being spent. After that, we'll connect that spending to the real-world impact on families across the country. Then we're going to zoom in on the two big pillars, education and health, before we wrap it all up with a quick cheat sheet, all the essentials for your exams. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, first up, the big picture. What's the core philosophy, the main idea behind India's social policy? Well, it all boils down to creating something called a virtuous cycle. This quote really hits the nail on the head. The idea is simple, but it's incredibly powerful. See, economic growth by itself isn't the end goal. For that growth to really matter, it has to kickstart this amazing positive feedback loop. A stronger economy means more money for better schools and hospitals. And guess what? A healthier, better educated population then fuels even more economic growth. That's the virtuous cycle in action. It feeds itself. And this entire concept is at the heart of a term you absolutely must know, Viksit Bharat 2047. This is the long-term national dream. The goal isn't just about a bigger GDP. It's about making sure every single citizen feels a real, tangible improvement in their quality of life. So, how does this big vision turn into reality? I mean, a vision is great, but it has to be backed by some serious financial muscle. So in this section, we're going to do just that. We're going to follow the money. Just look at this chart. It tells a very clear story, doesn't it? You can see this steady, impressive climb in what's called Social Services Expenditure, or SSE. We're talking about going from 14.8 lakh crore rupees in FY21 all the way up to a projected 25.7 lakh crore in FY25. This isn't just a small bump. It's a massive, sustained investment push. Okay, so where is all this cash going? Well, the biggest slices of the pie are going right into those two foundational pillars we talked about, education and health. For the 2025 budget alone, we're looking at a huge 9.2 lakh crore for education and another 6.1 for health. This breakdown really shows you where the priorities lie. Now, if there is one number from this section that you need to highlight, underline, and burn into your memory, it's this one, 15%. That's the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of social spending between 2021 and 2025. What that means is the investment isn't just growing, it's growing at a really fast compounding rate, year after year. That's a super important data point. The government is obviously spending more, but so what? What does this actually mean for the average person, for a family? Let's shift our focus from these trillions of rupees to the real, tangible impact on Indian households. To measure this impact, economists use a key metric called MPCE, which stands for Monthly Per Capita Expenditure. You can just think of it as a snapshot of how much an average person is spending each month. And when MPCE goes up, it's a really strong sign that living standards are getting better. And the data shows something fascinating. For years and years, there's been this massive gap in spending between people in cities and those in villages. But that gap, it's shrinking. If you look back to 2011, an urban Indian spent about 84% more than a rural Indian. Fast forward to today, and that gap has narrowed to 70%. This is powerful proof that growth is becoming more inclusive and is finally reaching rural India in a big way. And here's another key piece of evidence, the Gini coefficient. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It measures inequality. 0 is perfect equality, 1 is perfect inequality. So a lower number is better. And what does the data show? The number is falling in both rural and urban areas. Put simply, the gap between the rich and poor is getting smaller, which suggests these social investments are actually helping to build a more equitable society. Okay, time for our first deep dive, education. And we're not just talking about building schools here, we're talking about building the human capital that is going to power India's future for decades to come. A huge focus of the National Education Policy is something called FLN, or Foundational Literacy and Numeracy. The goal is crystal clear. Make sure every single child can read and do basic math by the time they finish grade 3. The mission driving this is called Mnemonics and it's considered the absolute bedrock for all learning that comes after. But hey, Education today isn't just about reading, writing, and arithmetic. There's a huge emphasis now on social and emotional learning, or SEL. These are the soft skills you need to navigate life. There are 5 main pillars to it. And for your exams, here's a little trick. Just remember the mnemonic SSSRR. That's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. SSSRR. It's a really easy way to remember these key components. Of course, a massive part of modern education is technology, but this brings up a really critical question. How do we make sure we bridge that digital divide? How do we ensure a student in a remote village has the same digital opportunities as a student in a major city? Well, the government's answer is a whole suite of digital initiatives. And these are pure gold for your exam questions. You've got Diksha, which is the national platform for schools. There's SWAM, which offers online courses. PME Vidya kind of acts as an umbrella to bring all the digital efforts together. And crucially, you have PMG Disha, which focuses specifically on boosting digital literacy in rural India. Okay, let's move on to our second core pillar, health. You know the saying, a healthy nation is a productive nation. So let's take a look at the country's prescription for growth. This slide shows one of the biggest public policy success stories in India recently. Just look at these two opposite trends. As the government health expenditure, that's GHE, went up, the out-of-pocket expenditure for citizens, that's OOP, went down. And I mean drastically. The government's share of health costs jumped from 29% to 48%, while the burden on individuals plummeted from over 62% all the way down to below 40%. This is a massive, game-changing shift. And that term, OOP, is so important. It's the money that people have to pay directly from their own savings for healthcare. High OOP is what can literally push a family into poverty after just one medical emergency. And that's exactly why seeing it decline so sharply is a huge win for the financial security of millions and millions of households. Now, a huge reason for that change is this number, 36.36 crore. That's how many Ayushman cards have been issued. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire population of the United States. This makes Ayushman Bharat the largest health assurance scheme anywhere on the planet, and it provides a critical safety net for India's most vulnerable people. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So now let's boil it all down to the absolute essentials. Think of this as your final revision cheat sheet. Here are the absolute highlights to lock in. The big vision, Viksit Bharat 2047. The investment, growing at a powerful 15% CAGR. The impact, a narrowing MPCE gap and a falling Gini coefficient. For education, remember FLN and the SEL mnemonic. For health, the key story is GHE going up and OPE going down, powered by massive schemes like PMJ. Seriously, this slide is your golden ticket for revision. And we'll end with a question for you to chew on, especially for those more analytical, long-form answers. With all of this incredible investment in health and education, what do you think is the single biggest hurdle, whether it's getting things done on the ground, a skills gap, or job creation, that India has to overcome to truly cash in on its massive demographic dividend? Thanks so much for joining this explainer.